go. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Scott Ball podcast. Today's a very special episode where we're going to hone in on the connection between Southampton FC and the Scotland national team. Right now, at the moment, there's four individuals with a connection between Scotland and Southampton. Manager Russell Martin and three of the players, Stuart Armstrong, Che Adams and Ryan Fraser. So today I'm joined with a very special guest, Southampton FC expert, Martin Sanders. Hey Martin, thanks very much for joining me today. If you could quickly just tell me a bit about yourself, the media work you do and your connection to Southampton, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm a fan of 35 plus years now. I've been going to watch Southampton since I was around 6 years old. I'm 42 now. Absolutely love Southampton. Grew up watching them as a young boy, and as I've got older, I've kind of grown into the game. I work within the game. I work with a Championship goalkeeper, Asmir Begovic, who has his own goalkeeping brand. So I work with him during the week. I have a massive love for the game, and I'm a fan who creates fan content. I do a lot of YouTube content, and I'm a TikToker. I tweet about Southampton a lot, and I have the pleasure of going on great shows like yourself. I jump on any podcast to get the opportunity to speak about Southampton, and often get the odd appearance on Sky Sports News every now and then when they want a Southampton podcaster. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to talk to you about like our Scottish connection with the players we've got down at the moment, and also the manager as well.
That sounds great. Yeah, I came across your Twitter account, which I'll link when I publish this episode. Really insightful stuff regarding the players that we'll be discussing today. So yeah, what would you say is your earliest memories of supporting Southampton and why it is that you support Southampton?
My earliest memories was going down to the Dow where Southampton used to play when I was a young boy. It was a wonderful football ground, very small and compact. But my first memory was standing on the terraces as a young boy with my dad, actually. My young brother was there as well. He was an avid goalkeeper, my brother was. Tim Flowers, the Southampton goalkeeper at the time. He absolutely adored Tim Flowers. We had the pleasure of meeting him a few times, actually. We're based and grew up on the Isle of Wight. I'm still there now, actually. So a short ferry journey from Southampton. So we'd have to get a high-speed cat into or fast cat boat into Southampton when we watch a game. So we get the ferry over, and my first memory was standing on the Milton Road, it was called, on the terraces with my dad, my brother, and my mum was there actually as well. And I remember it poured with rain. We lost to Everton quite heavily, actually. I think it was 3-1. It was a poor game. I think my second game I watched Southampton was against Man City, and they lost that as well. Both defeats. But my dad was an owner of a sports shop, so he continually brought me home Southampton shirts because he was a Southampton fan, and they were the closest team to me other than Portsmouth. And Dad was a Southampton fan, and the rest is history.
That's lovely. Some nice memories there. That's what football's all about, right? Going to watch your team with your family. So yeah, diving forward a number of years to the current day, there's a natural link between Scotland and Southampton in that the manager at the moment at Southampton, Russell Martin, received 29 caps for Scotland between 2011 and 2017, was a regular under Gordon Strachan. He assumed a centre-back partnership with Grant Hanley and was actually a reliable player. He actually wore the captain's armband a number of times for Scotland. So yeah, can you cast your mind back to last summer when Russell Martin was appointed as manager following Southampton's relegation? What were your initial thoughts?
Look, I like Russell Martin. I think he's a really likeable guy. Look, he's coming here. He come to a football club that was going to go through a massive amount of transition because we're a Premier League club that had been relegated. We still had a squad of Premier League players when Russell come into the football club. So it was always going to be a turbulent time. He lost a lot of players, had to bring in bodies for a championship season, and also wanted to change the style of football that the football club played. It was built on a high press, high energy game where the team didn't really dominate loads of possession, certainly under Ralph Hasenhüttl, who was the longest serving manager before him. They had a little stint with Nathan Jones in between and Ruben Sellers, but it was a high press, high energy side. But Russell wanted to totally change the philosophy of the way we play football. Very much a possession-based side that built from the back. And it was always going to take time to adapt. Look, he took us 25 games unbeaten, which is it broke club history with what they did as a squad and a management team. So he'd be in the Southampton history books forever. But he'd be judged at the end of the season at Southampton if he gets them back to the Premier League, because that was his task. That was what he's brought in to do. It was a big ask. But he's a young manager. He's developing all the time, and I really like him. I'll be totally honest. I like him.
What would you say his strengths are as a manager and weaknesses maybe in your eyes right now?
I think his strengths are he's really good. He's really good with people. So this football club, Southampton, was really broken. Our fan base was broken. We'd had a couple of treacherous years in the Premier League, and Sport Republic of the ownership group come in, made mega changes, too many changes, and we got relegated. And there was no connection between the fan base and the ownership or the people that own the club. Russell's sat in the middle and he's building a relationship with the fans all the time. He's a really good man manager as well. He's very good with his players. He looks to get people on board. He looks to galvanise the squad together. Up until now, I certainly think he has done. Look, he has a style of play that he wants to play. It can be slow and pedestrian at times because he wants to play out from the back. When it's played at pace, it's really, really good. And you got everyone's on form. And he said today in a press conference, when everyone's working, everyone's running, and everyone's all in, it's brilliant to watch. But when you get two or three that are not all in, or there's an injury, or they're a little bit half-hearted, it doesn't work. He has one way of playing, and he will perfect that one way of playing. There's not really a plan B, and that's why there's a massive split, because the Southampton fans, certainly the older generation, not the retired generation, they almost have a heart attack every time the ball goes from fullback to fullback, and it will get passed around from the goalkeeper. And that's how Russell wants to play. It's not going to change anytime soon because that's his way of playing. But that would probably be the only downside. Maybe he doesn't have a plan B. He's yet to get a team promoted. It's widely spoke about down here. If he's ever going to get a team promoted, it will be this team with Southampton right now. It's just a really tough championship season, unfortunately. There's three very, very good teams in this division, so it's a big ask.
Yeah, it's a fascinating championship season, as you say. And just touching upon his philosophy, I was looking into Russell Martin. He spoke about his admiration for teams like Barcelona, Manchester City, Spain, and he said that the teams that he most enjoyed playing in as a player were the ones where he was allowed to play it from the back and play possession football. See, if you were to get promoted into the Premier League, how well do you think that style could transfer into the top flight?
Very difficult. I think you've seen it with Burnley this season under Vincent Kompany. Southampton play a very, very similar style to them. They found it very difficult. I think the gap between the Championship and the Premier League is huge. I think we found that by dropping down. Leeds, Leicester as well. The gap is massive. Will it transfer the style of play we play? You need the right personnel. You need the right energy. And that's exactly what he said in his press conference today. So they would have to back him with the right players. We're unsure about what will the ownership group have to put in to the football squad. And it will all come down to how they back him as a manager with the personnel that he needs to play this style of football. Because I'll be honest, as it stands with the personnel he's got, it probably wouldn't work. It remains to be seen. I think it would be a big, big ask. I think you have to have plan Bs. You need to have different options up front. We don't have any of those right now. Our squad would need a fairly big overhaul to have any chance playing this style in the Premier League.
Well, hopefully you get there either way. And just finally, Russell Martin, one thing that stands out to me, and you've touched upon it, is how impressive he is as a communicator and his people skills. I'm just wondering if you could elaborate a bit on that. And finally, what you think his potential could be in the game. I see him as a possible future Scotland manager. He's got the natural connection. So definitely. How far do you think he could potentially go?
I think he'd go the whole way. Do I think he'd manage in the Premier League? I think he will, yeah. I think that 25-game unbeaten run, there was the fan base loved him down here. But when things are going well in football, they all fall in love with the manager. You go 25 games unbeaten, it's hard to talk against the manager. But when things get a bit rocky, people can question things a little bit. I think he'd go a long way. I think he will manage Scotland. I think you're right. I think he's young and he's only going to get better, and he's only going to improve, isn't he? He's got Colin Calderwood, who's been around the game for years with him now. He's on his staff at the moment. He calms him down at times. He's a passionate man. He shows a lot of passion towards decision making, his team. I enjoy watching him, to be honest. And like you say, he's a very, very good communicator. He communicates with the press here quite well. He tries to get the fans on board, which is important. You need your fan base on board. I think with anyone, you can have your moment of rashness and be a little bit prickly, which he can be. I think that's the same with any manager, though. Russell's no different to Daniel Farke can be at times at Leeds. He can just be a little bit prickly. Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how his career unfolds. And Colin Calderwood, ex-Scotland international, that could be an interesting management team in the future. Let's see. So now on to the players, and a player who's very close to my heart, actually. Firstly, starting in chronological order, touch upon the Saints Scots contingent is Stuart Armstrong. I'm actually a supporter of Dundee United, and I remember Stuart Armstrong coming through at Dundee United, one of my favourite ever players. So yeah, if you could just cast your mind back to Armstrong arriving at Southampton. It's 2018 now, the summer of 2018. Arrived from Celtic at £7 million. What were your initial impressions? I know Southampton have had a good record of bringing in players from Celtic like Van Dijk, Forster, Wanyama. Can you remember what you initially thought when Armstrong arrived?
Yeah, I did a lot of research into him when he arrived. He was technically a really good footballer, good with the ball at his feet, maybe not got tons and tons of pace, but a footballer with a really good brain about him. And he's brought all of that. Look, I don't think he had the easiest of starts to life here. I don't think he ever played in his position that really suited him under Ralph Hasenhüttl. We like to play him wide of a 2 or 3. They play quite a narrow setup at times. He played wide either side. He never played in like that midfield role. The one thing that Russell Martin's got out of Stuart Armstrong this season, he's had his best season in the Southampton shirt, not just because of the division they're in, but because the belief that Russell's given him, but the position he's played him in. He's freed him up. He plays Flynn Downs as like a holding 6, and he'll play Stewart in front of him with one other. And when Stewart's not played, we don't quite look the same side, Southampton. He's brilliant. I remember coming in thinking he was technically a really good footballer. He suffered on and off with a lot of injuries and struggled to get any real momentum. And it's typical. His contract's about to expire at Southampton. He's probably coming to his best form he's ever had here. But I think he'd probably move on at the end of the season, unfortunately, Stuart. But I've really enjoyed him being here. And he links up play. And he can score a really good goal. My favourite memory of Stuart, actually, is a goal he scored down here in the FA Cup against Coventry 2 seasons ago. It was an incredible strike.
I know the one. You've probably
seen it. Yeah, it's his best goal for Southampton. Brilliant. He makes big contributions to the team. I miss him when he goes. There's a brilliant song they sing about him down here, about his hairline being fine. He scores belters all the time. And when he does score goals, he scores really good goals. I absolutely love him. And we'll certainly miss him when he's gone.
Glad to hear you're as big a fan of Armstrong as I am. And yeah, that song was popular among Celtic fans as well. Yeah. Just on that, he's 32 now, Armstrong. His contract's up at the end of this season. How do you assess his future? Do you think he'll be a Saints player next year, or do you foresee him moving on?
I think he'll move on. There's no secret that Premier League clubs are really interested in him. In the summer, just got one of those being Fulham. He's a Premier League player, probably still. He could still go and play in the Premier League, in my opinion. I think he's a top player. Whether he's got the ambition to go back and play in the Premier League, or he maybe go to Scotland and go home, which he could do. Maybe will he have one more shot at the Premier League? I think he might. I think he's more than good enough. I think whether he struggles at the moment. Maybe injury. He struggles to play 90 minutes week in, week out. But boy, when he does play, he's technically so good. Such a good player. I love him.
That's great. And on to the next player then, who I think you may have a slightly different opinion upon. A divisive player, I think for Scotland as well, it's Che Adams. He actually arrived at Southampton a year after Stuart Armstrong, £15 million off the back of a 22-goal season for Birmingham, the Championship. Again, if you cast your mind back, what did you think of that signing in the Premier League at the time?
It was a funny one because I was always led to believe that the manager at the time, Ralph Hasenhüttl, didn't want to sign players from the Championship. He didn't want players from England from the Championship. He wanted proven Premier League players or proven overseas players. And they brought Adams in. It was a young up-and-coming talent. Like you said, he had a really good season at Birmingham, the season before he come into Southampton. He's 27 years old now. I think he's developed a lot in his time at Southampton. Yeah, he massively splits our fan base, like hugely. You wouldn't believe. He had a couple of good seasons under Hasenhüttl. His best time probably come when he forged a really good partnership with Danny Ings in a couple of seasons. Certainly in and around before COVID and sort of those COVID behind closed doors season. He was really, really good, Adams. He's a really good foil for a pacey striker. Like he drops off. He's put a lot of weight on, I think. Not weight, but he's really made himself strong. Strong, big legs, big calves, big upper body, strong. Look, he's an important player at Southampton. He's massively underrated by some of our fan base. Every football fan base looks for a scapegoat. If it's not Che Adams, it'd be Ryan Manning. If it's not Ryan Manning, it'd be Gavin Bazunu. Every football fan will look for the scapegoat, and Shea's become it a lot. He misses a lot of big opportunities, as you've probably seen for Scotland. I've enjoyed him being here. His contract's out as well. Another Scot that will probably leave the South Coast this summer. He'd go on to another club. There's rumoured that a lot of Premier League clubs that want Che Adams, and I've enjoyed him, to be fair. I think he's a good player, and technically, I think a few players would have learnt a fair bit from him as well.
That's interesting insight there. A lot of that is relatable, I think, to Adams' time in a Scotland shirt. Obviously, qualifying for Scotland through a grandparent. He's now got 29 caps, 5 goals. I actually think Adams is a brilliant all-round footballer. Like, he's strong, he's quick, he's clever. He'll give you absolutely everything. But he's a 1 goal every 4 chance type of striker. And it's interesting what you say there regarding how well he linked up with Danny Ings. Do you think that's how you can get the best out of Che Adams, like bringing others into play as opposed to leading the line? Because for Scotland, we play one up front, and I think that is perhaps not the most suitable formation for a Che Adams type of striker.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happened here at Southampton this season. Is he play 1 through the middle, and he play 2 wide. Ryan Fraser picks up one of those roles, which we'll probably speak about in a minute. Or you pick up with Adam Armstrong, which would go down the other side. And he plays Che through the middle, and you use him to drop off, pick the ball up, and bring people into play. I don't think it necessarily suits him. He's the best option we've got at Southampton. We bought a striker in Ross Stewart, who's injured, yet to really kick a ball. He was brought in as the focal point this season. So I think if Ross had not been fit, I think Che would have probably been sold. There was a lot of clubs that was talking around 7-8 million. Southampton were ready to sell him, but with the injury to Stewart, they had to keep him. And does he fit Russell Martin's style of play? Not convinced. He's going to score loads of goals in this style of play, but he brings a lot to the party, in my opinion. Like you say, for every 4 chances, he might score, but he's intelligent, like you just said. And sometimes I watch him play passes, and I think, geez, his best game for Southampton come at Birmingham away this season. I was there in the terraces, and I thought he was outstanding that day. His link-up play, his vision, little things he did off the ball were really, really good. Really underrated at times. A lot of fans down here don't like him, so I'll probably be I get a few pouters for what I've had to say, I expect.
You're right, though. He's a player that's had moments, Adams. Actually, his most memorable moment at Scotland shirt, some combined with Stuart Armstrong. I'm not sure if you've seen the goal. It was against Denmark, an important game for us, where Armstrong slips through Adams and he scores. So, yeah, he is a popular figure amongst the Scotland fans, but he's never quite nailed down that striking berth. And you just touched upon a bit of a forgotten figure amongst Scotland fans and maybe Southampton fans there, Ross Stewart. We're crying out for a striker for Scotland. It's a shame how injuries have plagued his career in recent seasons. What hope do you have for Stewart's future at Southampton, and what did you make of that signing?
I was surprised that we signed a striker injured when we were going into probably the biggest season in the football club's history for many, many years. It was a season with the players that were able to keep, the likes of Kyle Walker-Peters, that managed that the football club. We kept Che Adams, Stuart Armstrong. There were big people to keep because they were all very, very sought after. Kamaldeen Silamana. I could go on with the list of players that they managed to keep. And for me to gamble on Stuart was big because you had a really good group of players, and they needed a striker. We really needed a striker for a long time. We bought a lad called Paul Onuachu last January. Didn't work out. Tall, lanky striker. Didn't have much of a touch, but good in the air. But Southampton don't play that way. Apparently, Russell Martin really, really liked Ross Stewart. They took a punt on him being injured when they signed him, and they slowly got him back to being fit, and he got injured again. So it was always a big gamble. There's big hope for him at the football club going forward. Absolutely. He's been bought for the long term. I think it depends on what division Southampton are in, because he played lots of football in League One, and he was really good. Played a little bit of Championship football, but not loads. He didn't play a season in the Championship. I think he played half a season. But Southampton could be a Premier League club when he's fit again. Who knows? Who knows when he's going to be fit? He broke down pretty quickly early on this year. So I think they need to look after him and try and get him back and give him the best possible chance. I watched the Sunderland documentary a little while ago on Netflix, and he looked really good for them in that promotion from League One. He looks a really good striker. He's got a lot about him. So look, I'm looking forward to seeing him. I hope they stick with him. I know it would have been really hard for him to have that amount of money spent on him and get injured.
Yeah, I wish him all the best. I hope when he comes back, he can show the level of performances that he was putting in for Sunderland, as you say. There was a number of Premier League clubs actually that are linked with moving for him, like Crystal Palace and whatnot. And as I say, Scotland are needing a striker to come alive for us. He said a fascinating story. He came through the Scottish lower leagues. He has all the attributes of a top striker, so hopefully he'll be fit and scoring goals for Southampton and Scotland in the near future. Absolutely. As for the next Scotland international on the books of Southampton at the moment, Ryan Fraser. He's not actually played for Scotland since the end of 2022. He's had some issues with the current manager, Steve Clarke. He's had issues with previous managers, Eddie Howe, regarding some off-field scenarios. What did you make of that signing last season when he came in on loan at the St Mary's?
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of fans were really disappointed actually when he came in. He was down here at Bournemouth, wasn't he, for many years under Eddie Howe, and I think the Southampton fan base were disappointed. Let's not sugarcoat it. Nathan Teller went out to buy Leverkusen for around £25 million. He was out on loan at Burnley last season. He scored 18 goals in the Championship for Burnley last season. And Saints fans were really excited to get Nathan Teller back. They sold him. And just as they're selling him, in come Ryan Fraser. And the football club said, no. He's not the Nathan Teller replacement. We will be bringing someone else in. No one else actually got brought in. So it was, in the end, Ryan Fraser was a replacement. But he showed such endeavour and hard work in his debut in those games in his first month. The fans really liked him, and then he started to score some really important goals at really big moments. Hull City away, he scored in the last seconds there, dying seconds. He did the same at Millwall as well. He scored a brace against Swansea at St Mary's, and he proved to be a really, really good signing for Southampton. One of the best loan signings they made. He's got high energy. I think he's probably learned from the mistakes he's made with managers. He wants to finish his career on the South Coast. He loves the South Coast, being by the beach with his family, his wife. He wants to live down here. That's what he said. He said that in interviews. And I think, look, when you're coming down playing for a contract, you've got to give it everything you've got. You've got to get your head down, keep everyone on side, get your contract. And that's what he's trying to do. He's made it perfectly clear he wants to stay here. And look, he's given everything to the cause when he's been here. If we had more Ryan Frasers this season, Southampton would have been in a far greater position than they are right now.
That's high praise. And I actually read an article with Ryan Fraser saying how much he loved the area and how much he loved playing for Southampton. It seems like he's been an asset to your season so far. I actually think he could be Scotland's secret weapon in this Euros. He has a very good record for Scotland, 26 caps. He's got 13 goal contributions. He has unique attributes in our national pool at the moment. He's got natural pace. He's good from set pieces. He's versatile. And I think it's a bit of a misunderstood myth, perhaps, in Scottish football circles that him and Steve Clarke currently have a breakdown in relationship, because he did play for us following the incident where I think he pulled out of a squad for Scotland and then was seen training at Newcastle. It caused an issue at the time, but I think he is over that. One question I have for you, Martin, on Ryan Fraser. Scotland currently have a problem position at right wing back, and he has played there on occasion for Scotland. Yeah. Do you think he has attributes to play that position in certain games?
Yeah, he probably could. I think it's a big ask, but he gets back and tracks back. That's the one thing you say about Ryan. He's got a lot of energy, and he get back in he track back and he make tackles. I think his biggest threat lies in the final third, sort of running at defenders, sort of halfway line to the 18-yard box. He can really put people under pressure. I know it was against Walsall in the FA Cup. He was like man of the match display. He was so good, Even though the opposition were lower, he treated it like it was a top end Premier League game. He gave it everything. He's professional. Look, he could play any position if you asked him to. Certainly done that right side. I think he's technically clever. Look, I think playing for your country, you'd do anything to play for your country, and I think the door's open. He said he's not thinking about it, but there's no doubt he'd go and play for his country. He got the opportunity. I'm surprised he's not in around the squad. I think, like you say, he could potentially be a secret weapon for you as an impact sub. I think he's brilliant. I think he's absolutely outstanding. He's called some of the best fullbacks in this division. All sorts of problems this season, and he can assist, he can score, can take free kicks, corners, and he's a bit of a leader as well. I like him a lot. I hope he stays. He seems to get on well with the manager, so there's an opportunity. As long as the manager's here, I think Ryan will be here.
Yeah, obviously, positions for the Euros are very tight. There's only 23 players, but he is somebody I think not enough people in the Scottish football sphere are talking about or thinking about. I think as you say, he's experienced, he gives you something off the bench, and he does have a good track record for Scotland, so I would definitely have him in the squad. He's versatile as well. And before we get onto your hotly anticipated Saint-Sullivan. I would just like to get your take on the Euros this summer and our chances. It's obviously going to be very difficult for Scotland, but paired in a group with Germany, Switzerland, and Hungary, how do you see Scotland getting on in that group, if you're being honest?
I think like a tournament football is so exciting, isn't it? And I just think you just never know. You just need to be professional, organised. I think he's a good manager, isn't he? He seems to get his sides organised, and sometimes you just need to go into it really well prepared. And if they're really well prepared, you just never ever know. So who's in the group? Talk to me. Who's in the group? Did you get all the teams?
Germany, the hosts, then Hungary and
tough.
Switzerland.
Two qualify from the group. Be tough. It'd be
potentially
really tough.
3. We might only need 1 win.
Yeah, I think they do it. I think they qualify the group. If they need 1 win, they do that. I think they have more than enough to do that. And on their day, you can see Scotland against anyone on their day could beat any side. So just need to be at it, organised, and just everybody comes together. And you just never know in a tournament, do you?
Nice one, bit of faith there. Appreciate it. Hopefully, Stuart Armstrong or Che Adams can play a role. Nice one. Now on to your lifetime 11. If you could first talk us through your first memories of an era, perhaps the first era in which you were a Southampton fan, and then build your team. You're the manager. You can pick the formation.
Yeah.
Who are you saying?
Well, since you asked me this question earlier and on a message, I thought I spoke to my best mate that comes to games with me, and we've actually been bouncing this around all afternoon trying to put together our team and my team, and sort of like we've watched every game. We watched pretty much every game together. And somebody that we need to put in goal is somebody that actually played in Scotland for a period of time, Anthony Amy. He was an outstanding goalkeeper down here for us. You probably know him very, very well. I think there was a famous caller on TalkSport that called for him to go and play for the Scotland national side. And he's actually Finnish, which is, I think if you Google it...
I know the story.
You'll still find the story now, but he's a brilliant goalkeeper. He's my goalkeeper. Absolutely. He's my best friend's goalkeeper, actually. I'd have to have him in goal without doubt. So my centre backs.
I love that actually. A number of my friends are Hearts fans, and they hold Anthony Amy in very high regard as well.
My mate's brilliant. He's quiet as a mouse, but yeah, brilliant goalkeeper. Some of the saves that man made for us was unbelievable in a really good period of time for us. So I started watching Southampton sort of like during the I was born in 82, so sort of like late 80s, early 90s. So I'm kind of building my team from there on inwards. And obviously there's some names that you're going to certainly recognise, but centre-backs for me, a guy called Ken Moncal used to play centre-back for Southampton in a time when I went to watch a lot in the early 90s. He was really good, strong centre-half, no-nonsense defender. But if you put him next to Fonte, who used to play for Southampton, during our promotion from League One up to the Championship, and then on to the Premier League, he was a really vital player, but he was very good on the ball. If you could put those two together, you'd have a pretty good centre-back pairing, I'd say. So that kind of makes up my centre-back pair. And then I'm struggling at left-back a little bit. I think left-back's really tough. Wayne Bridge would come through the Southampton Academy. I find it hard not to put him in my side. I saw a lot of him play, and he was probably one of the best left-backs. But then you also Gareth Bale come through, and he played left-back, but probably in a lower division. So I was really tying over the two of them. But Gareth went on to end up playing as a left winger. But if you talk about left wingers or left backs, I'd seen the best left back I'd probably ever seen play for Southampton. It would have been Gareth Bale, but just at a lower level. So I think if you want to play it, just go with the left back that's played at the top level. It would be Wayne Bridge. Unfortunately, it just edges it Wayne Bridge for me. And at right back,
that must be the only team Wayne Bridge gets over at Gareth Bale. But I understand the reasoning.
yeah, it's a real tough one. Then at right back, we've had some good right backs. The right back right now is probably my favourite. Nathaniel Klein was really, really good under a period of time when we had a really lovely run under sort of back in Maurizio Pochettino into Ronald Koeman. He was really good. But I tell you what, Kyle Walker-Peters is one of the best right backs I've seen at Southampton. I love watching him play. So I'm actually going to go with a right back that's in our side right now, and Kyle Walker-Peters. That makes up my goalkeeper and back four. Do you want the midfield now?
Yeah, firstly, I just want to make a comment at Kyle Walker-Peters. It's interesting you say that. It's fascinating, actually, because when Southampton were relegated, he was probably the first player I expected a Premier League side to pick up. Yeah. And the fact you were able to retain him, that was why you were my pick to win the championship. I think he's a brilliant player, can play on both sides. super talented. So it's interesting you pick him in this all-time 11.
Yeah,
So yeah, onto the midfield.
He's played for England, and he go on and play for England again. He get a Premier League move, by the way. He will go back and play in the Premier League, whatever happens. He's brilliant. Right, midfield's tough because we've had some really, really good midfielders over the years. How to go with the French international as my first central midfielder is Morgan Schneiderlin. He was really, really good. He went on to, I think, went to Man United, then Everton after us. But he was really pivotal in a really important time in our history, going from League One back to the Premier League. And Morgan Schneiderlin was technically a really good footballer. Quite tall, he contributed goals, he just had a bit of everything about him. But he was a really good central midfielder. I don't know if you remember watching him play at all.
Yeah, I do. Schneiderlin, yeah. He came through the divisions, right?
Come up through the divisions, yeah. Signed as a young player as well. Midfield's tough. For me, in midfield, you always need someone that can get a foot in, someone that's big and strong. And Oriol Romeu, who's at Barcelona right now, he was really, really good for us, sort of like under Hasenhüttl for a period of time. No nonsense defender, our midfielder, could sit in sort of front of the back four and just break play up. I'd have him in any Southampton 11 for me because just of what attributes.
Underrated player, right?
Yeah, massively underrated. When he left and we let him go last season, if we'd had him in our final season in the Premier League, we would have had a far better chance of staying in it. He was a massive reason we got relegated by selling him or letting him go. He's brilliant. Such a good midfielder. Then you've got a partner him with it's tough one where the guy called Chris Marsden played in midfield a lot in the sort of like early 2000s. He was a really hard-working midfielder. I could potentially throw him in there. I think it's hard not to put him in there. Chris Marsden was a really good midfielder. I always really enjoyed watching him play. Victor Wanyama was another really good midfielder, but I'd give it to Marsden actually because I just loved watching him play during the period of time that I was a Southampton fan. So yeah, I enjoyed Chris Marsden, and then you've got to pick your front two, which is really, really tough. Like really tough. Your front two's quite tough, or front three. You're saying front three. I need three more, don't I, to finish my team? Is that right? Am I saying front? I need a front three.
Yeah. Can you just reiterate your midfield there?
Yeah, so my midfield is Romeo, Marsden, Schneiderlin. So we've got three in midfield. So I need three attackers now.
So a front three.
Yeah, a front three, which would be quite good fun, actually. This will be really good fun. Matt Le Tissier, I think, goes without question. You've got to have him in there. One of the most important players in Southampton's recent history. I think he was just, he was just brilliant. When I grew up watching him, he saved him from relegation so many times. He's a little bit outspoken on social media these days and takes pouters for what he has to say. But as a footballer, he was brilliant. Brilliant. Everything that was good about us, loyal servant, loved the football club, wore the number 7 shirt. He's obviously in the record books. He scored more goals for Southampton than anyone else. He was amazing. Just an incredible footballer to watch. I think he'd be in anyone's Southampton 11.
Only 8 England caps, which seems a bit unfair to me because I've seen some old videos of Le Tissier where he almost had a goal of the season competition all by himself.
Yeah, he got really unlucky with England managers. Terry Venables was the England manager for a long period of time in the 90s. He actually turned down Terry Venables when he was going to play for I think it was Tottenham manager, and he didn't sign for Tottenham. He decided to stay at Southampton. He felt he held a bit of a grudge against him, actually. And then Glenn Hoddle became the England manager after Terry. And I think he was on the verge of signing for Chelsea at one stage and turned Glenn down. So he got a little bit unlucky there. Then he puts it down to that. Look, he didn't work that hard off the ball at times, but boy, when he had the ball at his feet, he was an absolute genius. Unbelievable he didn't play more games for England. It's just quite incredible. And it brings me on to my next number 7. So there's another number 7 that you will find really, really hard to leave out of your best Southampton 11 since I've watched. And it's a gentleman called Ricky Lambert. He was absolutely phenomenal for our football club. A player that we would, if we had a Ricky Lambert right now, we'd be flying on our way to the Premier League right now because he just scored goals for fun. He was the Southampton goal machine. Anyone in recent time will remember Ricky. He was brilliant in League One. He got fitter and fitter, went through the Championship for Nigel Atkins, scored a record amount of league goals for any Southampton player. I think I need to look at the statistic, how many he scored in that Championship season, but it was quite incredible. And then he went to the Premier League, and no one thought he could play in the Premier League. And he went to the Premier League, and he scored in his Premier League debut his first ever game in the Premier League. Southampton's first ever game in the Premier League against Man City. Come on as a substitute and scored. And Maurizio Pochettino coming to Southampton. He got him really, really fit. Built a team around him. I'll tell you what, he was some player. Went to Liverpool in the end. I think he regrets it because if he finished his career here, he would have finished off a fair bit better than it did. But Ricky Lambert was really, really good.
Amazing player. He actually scored against Scotland. And another fascinating story, it was at Bristol Rovers he was at before. Banged in the goals throughout the divisions. Two expert penalty takers and two ex-pros who, as you've touched upon, have questionable things sometimes to say nowadays in the public domain. But Le Tissier and Lambert, two amazing players, and I'm not surprised they're in your team.
Yeah, and then you've got to bring one more player in, which is really hard. And there's three I could throw in. Theo Walcott, he was really, really good when he comes through the academy, but wasn't around for a long period of time. Come back at the back end of his career, but kind of his career was kind of coming to an end. So I've excluded him. Gareth Powell can play as an attacking midfielder. He didn't play in that role for Southampton, but as his career went on, he got better and better, didn't he? But I'm thinking about who played the best in those attacking roles, and I'm going to give it to a player that probably I get pouters for this as well, actually. Adam Lallana come through the academy at Southampton. He went off to Liverpool in the end. But I tell you what, he had some really, really good skill. And in that period of time under Maurizio, he was brilliant for him. Technically really gifted on the ball, had a swagger about him. And when Southampton had that really good spell, and they were really, really good under Maurizio Pochettino, he was brilliant for Southampton. It's hard to leave him out. I know a lot of fans say to me now that he wants to come back and finish his career on the South Coast at Southampton. His son's actually in the academy. A lot of people are not against that. I'm not against it. I really liked Adam. I'm going to throw him in there just as a bit of a wild card.
Supremely talented player. I can't remember, you may be able to help me remind me. He scored a goal where he weaved in and out of players. Isn't the Premier League? That's outstanding.
Yeah, it was. I was trying to think who it was against, but yeah, he was. I think it wasn't.
It's one to check out on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was Villa. He scored against Villa in our first season back, but he was brilliant. I really enjoyed watching him play. We've had some really talented players come through the football club. Oxlade-Chamberlain come through as well. He was really good in League One for Southampton. Didn't play at the top end. I'm kind of playing players that have would be playing in the Premier League at the real top end. Look, he went and did well for Liverpool, didn't he, Adam Lallana? And when he's fit, he's quality. And even when you see him play now for Brighton, he's still decent. Really, really good.
A lot of caps for England too. One player I am surprised, I'm not sure whether it's a mistake or whether there's a specific reason, is James Ward-Prowse doesn't make it into your team.
Oh, yeah. That's a very, very good point, actually. I've not put Ward-Prowse in there. Look, he's a good player, James Ward-Prowse. It's a really good point, actually. Could be the wild card from off the bench, maybe. James is a very much a workman-like player. Scored some really, really good free kicks. A lot of fans were gutted to see him go last season, and hopefully maybe he comes back and finishes his career at Southampton. I think maybe that relegation season for Saints wearing the captain's armband, played with a few people because he probably didn't play his best football in his last season here, but he was a good player though, really good player.
That's great. And just before we get onto your manager and your Hall of Fame entry, there's a number of players that went on to stardom following their time at Southampton, and understand why they've not made this team. They might not have had that enduring impact. But if you just tell us about your impressions of the likes of a young Gareth Bale, an emerging Virgil van Dijk and Sadio Mane, which of them would you have said at the time you expected most to go on and have the amazing careers that they did?
Probably Gareth Bale, if I'm honest. I remember seeing him play his debut for Southampton. It was in the Coca-Cola Championship at the time. I think it was against Derby County away. And I remember seeing him at St Mary's play. God, he was so good. He was so good. He's had everything about him. He was brilliant. You could just see he was going to get picked up so quickly. He was a brilliant, brilliant player. He was pacey. He was strong. And at that age coming through, I can't remember, it must have been 17, 18 at the time. It was obvious he was going to go to a big club. He went on to Spurs and he just developed and got better and better. He was brilliant. Virgil I left out on my side actually, and that's another one I'm in an R with. He wasn't around for a really long period of time, but Van Dijk was really good. He left under a bit of a cloud. The fans didn't particularly like him at the back end, I'll be honest. Just the way he left. I think he went on strike for a while. But I thought he'd go on and do well. I didn't think he'd do as well as he's done. Not like I thought Gareth would do. But yeah, Bale was brilliant.
How about Mane? He obviously scored that record-breaking hat-trick. How good was he at Saints?
Again, it was around a real short period of time. When he was here, he was brilliant. It was obvious he was going to go on and do well. I didn't think he'd go on and do what he's done, but I thought he could be a little bit of a flash in the pan. But no, he went to Liverpool and done really, really well. He was a good player for us for, like you say, a very, very short period of time, but loads of pace. Brilliant in the final third, and he knew where the net was as well.
Nice one. How about the manager? Your favourite manager in your time supporting Saints?
Oh, my favourite manager, my time supporting Saints. Oh, it's really, really tough. Really, really tough. I'm a bit torn actually on managers. Really, it's different managers got different things out of at different stages in what league position we're in and what we were trying to achieve. I think Nigel Atkins goes down as played a really, really important role for Southampton as a manager. And what he did in the period of time in my lifetime, getting us from where we did from League One back to the Premier League. Alan Ball, he played a really pivotal role in the 90s when Southampton were really struggling. He had Matt Letizia at his disposal. He was just really short manager for a short period of time. He went off. I think he went off to Man City in the end, but he did really well. And we played some. I remember as a kid growing up, we played a real good bit of football, and we were always relegation threatened. He got us to sort of like mid-table. He's not my managerial Hall of Fame. I'm really struggling between Nigel Atkins. I enjoyed Maurizio's, Pochettino's time, and that kind of brought us into Ronald Koeman, who we had probably our best purple patch in the Premier League under. Ronald Koeman was brilliant, actually, to be fair. Do you know what? I'll probably give it to Ronald Koeman, I think during that period of time, he got so close to the Champions League. He built on what was done by Maurizio, and then Nigel, he kind of finished it off, and then ownership changed and things went south, so to speak. But I'll give it to Ronald.
That's fascinating. Obviously, Koeman's gone on to manage Barcelona, Netherlands national team, had an amazing career himself. It's cool to hear that he had such admiration for his time at Saints. Just finally, if you look upon that 11 and the manager, if you had to put one individual into the Scott Ball Podcast Hall of Fame, the one that stands above the rest, who would you say?
What player? Oh, Matthew Letizia. I think he's one of the best players to ever grace a Southampton shirt. To score the amount of goals that he scored from midfield for Southampton was incredible. That he scored nearly 30 goals one season from midfield. Never played as a striker, but he was an absolute genius on the football field. It would have to be Matthew Letizia.
I'm not surprised by that answer. As I say, I've seen clips and he looked like an unbelievable footballer. So that's everything, Martin. Thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. Fascinating insight. And yeah, I'll put in a link to your Twitter account once it's published. And yeah, I wish Southampton all the best for the rest of the season. And thanks again. I wish you all the best.
James, thank you very much indeed.